This is the Commonwealth, where we talk with the unique people blazing their own trail. Our guest today is my very good friend, Isabel Cheesman. Izzy is a teacher at a low-income school in Memphis, Tennessee. We reconnect about where we were 2 years ago and what our life is like now. Okay, Izzy, so thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yes, yeah. You are the first, I guess, I think you consider yourself a hardcore fan of the Commonwealth, or you claim to me that you've checked out some episodes.
I would be the most hardcore Commonwealth fan, not to brag or anything, but the Commonwealth has been my most watched podcast the last 2 years on my Spotify. I have many minutes listened, so I would consider myself a very avid fan.
Yes, well, you're the first hardcore fan to join the show. Not counting my dad, actually. He listens, but maybe not as strongly as you.
Ralph and I can talk about that later. I did at one point watch 6 episodes in one day. My Spotify told me so. A little creepy, almost.
Interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. What of all episodes, do you have a favorite?
Oh gosh.
I asked someone shot me a message recently. And so I asked them that. I was like, oh, what have you been digging? She's like, oh, I don't recall a specific one.
It's like, are you watching them or are you not?
Yeah, yes.
I think a lot, at the beginning, you had a lot of Lincoln and Omaha people come on who came from different backgrounds, like Maroon 5 fashion designers and a lot of business people. And even growing up in Lincoln, I think it gave me a clue into all the different varieties of people we have who come from Lincoln. I think you hear a lot that Nebraska is small, but then you brought in all these people who made their start in Lincoln or who are from Lincoln or just in Nebraska in general. So it was really interesting to see diversity within a city that I even grew up in.
Yeah, yes, totally. You also were one of the people when I started the show and would create drafts of any copy. You would I would send them to you and you give me feedback. So thank you for supporting from a very early on. There's a period of time I lived on your couch for a week.
2 weeks, number one. And he visited me in Memphis. I live in Memphis, Tennessee now, and we printed out about 1,000 Commonwealth flyers. And when we went to bars, he would go up to random people and hand them the flyer with his little satchel bag at a bar, mind you.
Yes, I still have a satchel bag, so don't hate on the satchel. Okay. And I think it was even more, it was thousands. We were at your place and someone was like, oh, you should just hang out posters like people would for bands and promote their music. And then you had free printing at your work. So I was like, oh, can we print some? And you're like, oh yeah, however many you want. I was like, well, how many is too many? Because we should print that amount.
You left with huge stacks, and you drove actually the 10 hours to Memphis. So the whole way you stopped it, it took you 15 hours, a 9-hour drive, because you were stopping in gas stations and putting up your Commonwealth flyer.
Yes. It was worth it though.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. We're here now, so.
We, I guess even before then, I think it was your senior year of college, and it would have been my first year working. We went to Duffy's. And we went to Duffy so much that we learned that the staff had a Christmas party, and they would invite regulars to join them at the Christmas party. Yep. So our goal for a few months was to get an invite to that staff Christmas party at Duffy's. Just shout out Duffy's, by the way.
Yeah, shout out Duffy's.
Yes, always. And we ended up getting a job at Duffy's. We worked. We were there so much that they employed us to run the marketing. And through the hours we would play through the hours at Duffy's, playing darts. I saw a dartboard, so we were told this story recently. We would just talk about where we were in life and how we were approaching making the next big decisions. That one 20 to or that people do in their early 20s. So, but that was again now almost 2 years ago, right? Maybe a little over, right?
Yeah.
2-ish, 2.5, 3 years ago. I thought that I thought it would be fun to I guess self-reflect on how we what we talked about and I guess how valuable it was, and then reflect on if we made the right decisions and kind of go into what you do now. Izzy is teaching for Teach for America in Memphis at one of the poorest schools in Tennessee. Is that low income?
Low income.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I feel you're the most driven person I know. I think that I was going through my college phase of graduating that you've just been through, of me potentially moving to Memphis and doing Teach for America or exploring other options. And I like, I don't know what I want to do, and I don't know what I want to get out of it. And Nick we would have these like spreadsheet notes on our phones that we'd sit there and talk about what we want to do and what we want to achieve. And Nick had like 5 or 6 different points of, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do. And it freaked me out because I was like, I don't know anything, and I'm about to move 1,000 miles through something that's scary. But also it motivated me to think about all those things of like what I want to do and what I want to get out of my life, which is actually what you had on your spreadsheet, what I want to get out of my life, which is an intimidating thing to look at, but also like can be inspiring.
Yes, yeah. It was the top of the sheet. I think it's like the most important, like when you make goals and all that. What do you think about the decision like scared you looking back?
I think mostly not knowing what I was getting into probably was the scariest thing, of not knowing much about the program and then just moving and not having a support system. Because I went to school in Lincoln. My parents both lived in Lincoln. So growing up with a support system, I have the same 3 or 4 best friends from kindergarten. Of course, like I made other friends. I promise.
A handful.
A handful.
Yeah, only a handful.
Like
Nothing
2 or
more.
3,
Yes. Not
and
more
I pay them, but it's okay.
yes. Definitely not 2 handfuls.
Yeah, 1 handful.
Yeah.
So just like leaving that comfort zone of, okay, I'm doing something scary, and plus, what if I don't make friends, or what if I don't know anyone? What if I don't feel supported? Which I think is like the most important thing in a job, to feel supported and valued.
And respected, I'd probably add, but like all those 3 kind of go together. So of the different, so you were either going to go to Memphis and teach for America, or go on to grad school, right?
Yes.
Yes, and the Memphis was definitely like the most risky option. Would you say? What made you decide to do the most risky decision?
I think where I was at was, if I didn't do something different now, I probably wouldn't ever do anything different. And so I think like adjusting to that change, and it's important to like take yourself out of the comfort zone. And I do like have a passion for kids, and I think with like, I was thinking about going to law school, but wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do with that, or where I wanted to be in my life, or who I wanted to help when we were filling out all those note spreadsheets. So going back to do something different that didn't feel as permanent. Like 2 years is permanent. Like I feel like I'm now a resident of Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes.
It feels very permanent now, but before, it was like 2 years of my life. I can hate what I do for 2 years, or I can be challenged, or whatever it is, for 2 years, and then I have a clean slate to start all over again. Where going to grad school, you go to grad school, and then it's like a next step of, I'm in a full-time job, and this is what I'm stuck doing.
That is more of a permanent career path. Totally get it. So how did you go about like that top of the line item of that spreadsheet of like, what do you want to do with your life? What, like, how do you go about answering that question, do you think, in hindsight?
So I feel like mine is not very concrete.
Okay.
Where I feel like people have like very concrete goals, where I'm applying for grad school now, but I still don't know what I want to do. But I think that, especially going into teaching, I teach 2nd grade, so like 7, 8-year-olds, the small impacts like make such a big difference. I still have like students calling me now who I had last year, who now like understand Zoom, trying to get me to help them. Or one of my kids called me last week. His sister was just born, so he like Zoomed me with his camera off, and he was one of my special angel children who gave me kind of a hard time. And he had his camera off, and he was like, Miss Cheesman, just look at this, just watch. And turn on his camera, and he was holding his baby sister for like the first time. He was able to, she had just gotten back from the hospital. And he was like, I wanted you to show, like, you have to hold her head, and was like explaining to me how to hold a child. And he has like 4 teachers now. So I think understanding that impact of like all these little kids that I taught all last year, and all the kids I'm teaching now, I think that is my big goal, is to have the biggest impact on the most amount of people I can. And if that's teaching them, or if that's helping them in any way I can, it doesn't exactly change their life path, but it tells them someone cares.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Before, like, because now that feeling is validated, when you are teaching kids and they're calling you, like all those are cool examples. So nice work. Yeah. But so like before that, as the 21-year-old sitting in Duffy's, how did you decide, like, I want to make an impact on the most people?
It's a good question. I think seeing impacts you have on small people and connections and relationships, I would say like relationships has always been probably the most important thing to me. And whatever I do, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it correctly. And I'm going to build relationships and do what I can for the people that I impact. So I think through like all the work that I did in college with like mentoring or being in leadership positions, all those things, you have impacts on people and you can help them get from kind of point A to point B. So I think just like impacting people in small areas gave me the desire to want to help people who may not have like the same opportunities that I've had.
Okay. So if you were to interrupt this, like the conversations we were having in Duffy's about like, what are we going to do with our lives? What would you tell yourself or tell both of us?
I think just getting out there and trying new things is super important. Of just like, don't think about it too much. Try your best. It will be okay. I've become very comfortable with like failure, unfortunately, over the past 2 years, just trying new things and it not working out. And, you know, like now teaching online over a pandemic, I think that you try your best and things like do work out. Mm-hmm. And even if they don't, that's okay. I've revamped things a million times or had horrible days, but it's not as deep as you think it's going to be. Like, it will be okay, I think.
Yes, that was also on my list of, like, when you try something, like, a lot of times you'll fail, but you will eventually find something that you really like to do. I mean, the classic example for me is podcasting. Like, I would have never thought to do it until, like, a friend was like, oh, do you want to start a podcast together? And was like, oh, yeah, this may be fun. And then it's now, like, a whole career deal for me. So, yes. Anything else? Or was that the first unprepared?
Unprepared.
Yeah. So other things I had was like lean into uncertainty because that was like, I think, and since then I've had just a bunch of like crazy things happen in life where I have to like, you know, you react to the situation you're in as opposed to like react to the plan you had for the situation.
Yeah. I think you make the most out of any situation you're in. So, you know, like I talk to my teacher friends who are now teaching like Lincoln and I'm teaching in Memphis and we obviously have very different opportunities and we have different resources given to us, but you can make the most, I think, out of situations, which is the most important thing is your attitude going into it, anything you do.
Yeah, most definitely. And then this was for me specifically on the whole, like, what would I tell myself at that exact period of time? But like think through people's reactions to something when you're trying to like change their situation or whatever. So I sometimes like it was like bullheaded and stuff since then. So
what?
Yeah, shocker.
It's news.
Yes, yeah. Next thing I guess kind of want to touch on is how is teaching at a low income school in a not great like education state in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah, it definitely has its challenges. I think that. No matter where you're at right now, teaching-wise, it comes with its challenges and it's very different. It's new territory. It's very challenging so I teach second grade, so I have 7-year-olds. And, you know, if they're home alone, a lot of them are home by themselves, or they have younger siblings who they have to take care of because their parents are working. So it's a lot of responsibility on the child. Almost all the responsibility is thrown on our children to take responsibility for their learning.
And even to set the scene of your school, so when I was like sleeping on your couch for weeks or 2 weeks, I went to see you in a classroom, and how many kids are in your class?
So virtually, I teach about 60 at a time.
60 at a time. And then what was the turnover of staff at the school? Wasn't there like a pretty high turnover rate?
Yeah. So during our year last year, we probably lost 15 teachers, at least during the school year. With virtually, it's been a very different like turnover rate. We haven't had as much because then it goes on the responsibility of the teacher. You have less like oversight there, you know, unless someone comes into your virtual classroom, they don't know what you're doing. So I think that it again comes on your responsibility as a teacher to understand you're teaching the children, you're showing up every single day, you are being responsible, and you are making the most out of the situation. So I think that probably lowers teacher rate, but just getting the kids excited for learning. So this past year, I've been teaching science. I'll be moving to math in January.
Okay.
But I've been teaching science, so got an incubator, and when teaching about the life cycle, I raised 6 chicks in my apartment. So we saw them from fertilization to about 4 weeks after they were born, and then they got smelly. So,
And what did you do with the chicks after?
So there was someone actually at my school who kind of lives out in Middle Tennessee who has a chicken farm. So she took them, and we get update pictures every week, and they're big now, and I'm glad I don't have them.
And are you 6 for 6? Like all 6 chickens are alive? For real?
Yeah.
Or is that just what you tell
No,
the
they're
students?
all alive. Like
okay.
I see pictures every single week.
Okay. I'm a little bit more skeptical, but
I should get like her to hold up a newspaper of the date with the chickens next time.
Yeah. Yes. Next year.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah. How is student engagement like? Like, are kids excited when you show the chickens on the Zoom? Like,
So that's the problem, though. You have to get them excited about learning, and a lot of times it's frustrating. Like, it is so frustrating when you don't know how to read or when you're super far behind when we're required to teach on-level content. So think about if you were a second grader, and we have a lot of kids. The majority of my kids read on kindergarten level, but we're required to teach on second grade level. So engagement is low because the kids don't know. And you can't expect them. Like, how do you, a 7-year-old to sit there and stare at a screen and be like, I can't even read the word the. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. What % of your kids are on free and reduced lunch?
My school's 100%.
100%? Mm-hmm. Okay. And what's the lowest student, of this, as far as reading level goes? Like, so is getting labeled as kindergarten reading level mean you just don't know how to read?
So kindergarten reading level, when you say kindergarten, you're talking about vowel sounds, you're talking about letter sounds, and writing your letters would be what I would classify as a kindergarten reading level. Okay,
amazing. So when you're like teaching on level and they don't know how to read, how do you, like, what happens?
That's a great question. A lot of times it's frustrating. So I tutor kids, we tutor after school, the kids who are really low, but that's the problem. If they get with COVID, at a lot of failing schools, they don't want to hold kids back or have failing kids because your test scores, funding, XYZ, all the problems that are with our education system, especially if they're SPED or ESL, which is English as a second language, you really can't hold them back unless you have proper paperwork. And a lot of schools just frankly don't have proper paperwork because they don't have the staff needed. They don't need this or that. So all these kids get pushed through. Like, I could name 10 of my kids last year who got pushed through who shouldn't have. So you think about that, and now they're in third grade, and they're probably not learning. And then they keep getting pushed through the system where in Memphis now, our parents in my school district read on a third grade level. Our parents?
So what's like a third grade level to like the whole vowel sounds and that you just went through? What's third grade?
Third grade.
And then after this, could I maybe take a reading test to see where I fall? I think I can at least get to middle school.
I'm sure you would. I'm sure you'd be fine. So it's basic sentence structure, like I would say understanding what a verb is, understanding, just like a basic sentence. The man went to the park on a rainy day.
Okay,
like being able to
noun, verb.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
And even be able to read that sentence would be a third grade reading level.
Yeah. So then is there, I know when you went into this, you wanted to understand the problems of the education system. And I know that's like a very big question that people can devote their whole career to, but where do you think like the biggest problem lies as you see it as like someone like on the front lines teaching 60 students, all of them, or your average student is behind 2 grades?
The problems. It's an education problem, but it stems so much further than that, where you can't, when this parents have to work night job and day jobs, they're tired. They need to sleep. These kids aren't learning. These kids are getting pushed through. Their parents can't help them with their work. I have so many English language students whose parents can't help them, or I have parents who aren't great readers who struggle with helping their student with our material, and they can't devote that time to helping their student. So it's a problem with our low income. They get pushed through. Our graduation level rates are so low. They can't go to college because they don't have money. So then you're stuck in a cycle. We could sit with all my students in my school, in my classroom, and tell you which one of those will get out of the poverty gap, which one of those will go to jail, which one of those will be shot. And you could give very true statistics on these students and follow them through. And we'd be fairly accurate because my school is, we're 90% black. We are 9% Hispanic. We have one white kid at my school. So you could very accurately predict our statistics for our school, even for our district, very accurately. And that is scary that you can do that almost to a T.
Yeah, the kids that you can predict that they're gonna like break out of this cycle, what factors result into like you thinking that kid is gonna make it?
Well, so I think the biggest thing is having a support system of having parents who every parent wants better for their kid, but having mentors, having those people who push them and strive them to be better. And a lot of kids don't have that. And a lot of kids don't believe in themselves. And a lot of people don't have someone telling them to believe in themselves. So I think that's where, you need good teachers, right? So you need, for teachers to care and for teachers to want their students to do well, which is where I think I get my satisfaction from my job, is, wanting to help the child and wanting them to believe in themselves and knowing it's okay if we don't know everything. It's okay if we don't know how to read, but we're going to come and we're going to try our best every day, and we're going to ask questions if we don't know the answer.
Yes, yeah. Now that you have a semester left of the 2-year agreement for TFA, what do you want to do after? You mentioned school. Do you still want to stick to something within education?
Yeah, so I am currently applying for education policy, public policy, dual degrees with a law degree. So that'll probably be my next path, but it'll be really sad if we don't get the chance to go back in the classroom. So that'll be definitely a hard decision to walk away from a position where I was only actually in the classroom for 7 months. Kind of feel it.
Yeah. When did you go remote, I guess? So last March?
Last March we went remote, and we haven't gone back in the building at all. So we have talks to next semester, but I'm not sure if we will.
Yeah. Interesting. And then, so I guess sort of last question, Izzy, for you. How do you feel about the decision to go do this now that it's done?
Yeah, I'm very glad I did it. It's been hard, and I've had multiple breakdowns about the challenges of it and the workload, and it's definitely grown me as a person. And I think that just making the most of any job that you can, where continuing to show up and do the best you can. I don't finish everything I'm supposed to. I'm not perfect at my job, but I'm definitely not a great teacher. So, but I also have a very good awareness of how much teachers do and how appreciative I am of the profession. And if minimum, that is not minimum what I got out of it, but if that's minimum what people get out of the program, we're not taking jobs from teachers. My school has empty positions all the time. We have 900 open positions in Shelby County in our county school district right now. So just being a body is what the kids need, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad I did it. And I think not everyone's always going to supply you with resources to do justice by these kids. And you're not always going to have everything you need, but just trying your best and doing whatever you can.
Yes. Yeah. How do you, keep that spirit high when things get frustrated?
I don't always, unfortunately. I wish I did.
And I feel like I've witnessed a breakdown or two. So
I'm sure you have. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I think the reflection of the kids. I think when the kids are excited to see you, and that's what you lose a lot when you're virtual. The kids coming to hug you or telling you about something or being sad that it's a weekend because they're probably not going to get food and they're not going to have anyone hug them or tell them that they love them or that they're doing great. Being that person for second graders who don't really understand that you're that person either. Of just being hey, I'm here for you. If you want to talk, or then look at my toy, or the new thing is an elf on the shelf of one of my kids.
Okay.
It's can you look at where my elf is today? Yeah, show me where your elf is. And letting their voice be heard, I think, probably.
Okay, amazing. Well, Izzy, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Any other thing, anything else we should add or talk about? This may be the last time you're ever on the Commonwealth.
Gosh, what's that?
Yes, no, but if it was, is there anything?
I guess keep watching. You've grown a lot. Great podcaster.
Thank you.
It's been fun to watch you continue to get new people and use your many talents to be creative.
Amazing. Thank you for the support.
You're welcome.